According to a running website I found online, I'm more athletic than 90% of the people that go to the gym. But despite this, I have still found myself being dominated and utterly played with in conversations and in the professional world. This is because I'm not a professional fighter or a bodybuilder, so my strength doesn't really matter too much in a world in which words are the weapon. There are rules, unfortunately or fortunately, which we have to abide to, which make us not be able to just resort to physical violence, which is fine. You know, some of us may wish they would be as simple as strongest wins, but this is something that you must train as well, not just your body. And in this video I'm going to break down how to not be a sandbag or a punching bag for other people to do whatever they want with you in conversation. 5 years ago I used to work at an Indian restaurant and they paid me minimum wage, which at the time for my age bracket was £4.15. Crazy. They didn't let me keep tips and they didn't give me any extra or bonuses, but they did give me free food to give them that. I fought many times, but I could never outsmart the manager. It was the first time I had actually been outsmarted ever in terms of psychology. I kept failing against him and he kept defeating me. We always entered a battle when I asked for a raise, when I asked to keep the tips. And it was always very tough and very frustrating to go through. Fast forward a couple of years, I've worked in different places and I've encountered different problems, but never really in terms of confrontation. I just had to develop other skills of charisma and psychology. However, in preparations to join the army at that time, I found myself bettering my posture and the way that I spoke and the way that I stood in general. And I was presented once again with an opportunity to be confronted repeatedly all the time. There was a manager that was drowning in ego and power and control. We've probably all met somebody like that before. This person was very frustrating to deal with because they just wanted to be right. They just wanted to tell you off for every little thing. You couldn't be happy around them because everything was sad and miserable and grey. But I wasn't having it. I like smiling, I like being happy, I like not paying attention to the small details and just taking care of the general things, not being so meticulous but getting to the end goal one way or another and being excellent in my approach. But she wanted things done her way. So as I was preparing for the army, there was one thing that I stopped doing. I stopped closing my body. I stopped looking away. I stood firm, looking towards her, and I never apologized anymore because, frankly, there was no need to apologize, and you tend to apologize more when you close in on yourself. There's a lot more that you can do, but to achieve this level of at least not backing down and not being closed in, what you can practice is opening your posture, keeping direct eye contact with the person, not in a stand-off battle, because if you're in an argument, no one ever wins, so avoid arguments. But keep eye contact, your body pointing toward them. Keep your chest out, shoulders back, the typical things, and take deep breaths into your diaphragm. But then, what if you don't really have the opportunity to be like that? What if you don't have the opportunity to stand in front of them? It's all very busy and there's kind of like stuff and objects in your way. And it's very fast paced. Well, I actually managed to get presented with this problem again in the future, and what happened was I was working for Estee Lauder and the management there, it was management, it wasn't leadership. People treated you like livestock and it was horrible. Nobody liked the leaders. It was just all very rude. They all taught each other how to be rude instead of how to lead. Overall terrible. They were the type of people that said whatever they wanted to you and then left. So treated you like a punching bag, like I said at the beginning. However, I wasn't having it. I didn't like it, and it wasn't in my nature to be disrespected the way that they disrespected me. So I disrupted their rhythm. I started to just take my time. Remember that you don't owe them an answer, so take your time and think about what you want to say to them and say it to them. Be the best man out of the two people. Be the best person that is respectful, that doesn't let disrespect occur to themselves, that is grounded, etc, etc. Be the best person out of the two. You know, this is something that I don't use for my professional life, but it's also something that I use for my family, my friends, my lovers, which I don't have anymore. It is better to take your time than to say something you regret and having to go back on your word and then having to explain and blah blah blah. You never want to explain yourself realistically. So it's better to take a second and spare yourself of some possible 30 days or half hour that you'd be presented with a problem with if you had just said something different. I did make a video about how to be more spontaneous and, you know, not having to take so long to come up with the right thing to say. You can check that out on yourself though. This video is for something else, so practice that silence and practice getting used to the silence. Because when you're the one that's being awaited on for an answer, you may be urged to say something quickly. But that's because you're not used to being in silence, you're not used to that awkwardness that you will feel. So first, get used to it. Lastly, there's one that I've never seen anyone really talk about, but it's something more spiritual, right? It is to have ultimatums in your mind at all times. So bear in your mind when you walk outside, when you engage in any conversations, keep in the back of your head some words that you repeat to yourself. Some words that will remind you of your essence, that will remind you of what you want to be and what you want to get to. The person that you want to become, right? It could be something like, prioritize love in every interaction, or don't be managed by emotions, manage them, or be the best version of myself that I can be. Develop the ability of having these sentences in your brain at all times unconsciously. And don't let people say whatever they want to you. You're not a punching bag. As you get better and better with all these things and you start to use them more naturally, then you can think about being more tactful. Until then, don't worry about making each interaction perfect and being, I don't know, some bloody psychological god or the most charismatic person on the planet. Understand that you may make mistakes, that the interactions are not going to be perfect. You may still end up hurting other people or not having said the perfect thing. But just focus on making each interaction better than the last one. Maybe have more love in it. Maybe be less abrupt. Maybe be less emotional when you're discussing something that might evoke anger out of you. And remember that you're doing this to protect yourself and to protect others. And have patience. You're doing well. Look at the bigger picture. Strive to be 1% better every day. And that's all for today. Much love.